Hi, aloha everyone in the Advanced Permaculture Student online course. My name is Alex Landry and I am with Moringa Man, and currently I am at the St. Pete Ecovillage where I have been living and learning for the last 6 months. And since my video today is about moringa, I thought I would share what's growing on here. So there's some moringa right there, moringa growing right around here. There's actually about 10 little moringa trees growing on the median and right out front of the main building of what has been called the St. Pete Ecovillage, which is actually being rebranded into what is now called the Institute for Sustainable Living. And I look very forward to helping plug in this Advanced Permaculture student online course into the curriculum for the Institute for Sustainable Living. This building right here is actually going to be the first building in the great state of Florida in an urban environment that is not hooked up to the electrical grid. So that it actually having 4 kilowatt of solar with battery backup, and that's going to be the office for the Institute for Sustainable Living. You can see right across the street here, some tiny houses over there that are portable ones. I believe there's going to be about 6 tiny houses that will be built on foundation. This is all new developments which have resulted in some policy reform from public hearing meetings and basically asking the city for permission to go about self-sufficiency. So here, I guess first things first, with moringa trees, when we're trying to encourage them for vegetative growth, we want to snip these flowers. So basically, the energy will continue going into leaf production instead of seed production. Yeah, I'm planning on walking over to the half-acre Ecovillage farm / permaculture food forest, but thought I might as well walk over here since Anthony and I on International Permaculture Day decided to make a little video of some of the work that we've been doing here. So you can see these moringa trees. These were planted about a year ago, and this is a form of hugelkulture. Basically, when this building was being renovated, there was some palm trees that needed to be relocated, and so as you see here, there's still some of the old stumps. And so this is actually good because moringa trees are drought tolerant, and the main thing that kills them is compacted soil, or when they're buried like too deep into the ground. So this way it lifts them up a little bit, a lot of fertility, a lot of abundance here. On the whole north side, there's what's called cowpea, which is nitrogen fixing and is helping to, kind of stabilize that slope. And yeah, aloe vera along this side, basil, tomatoes, chaya. It's pretty interesting. So yeah, let's get a little close-up here of some moringa seeds. So this is why moringa is commonly called the drumstick tree, because it produces these seed pods which look like a drumstick. We have lots of little baby moringa trees because we've been doing our best here to mimic nature and basically just, allowing the little baby moringa trees to grow right underneath, their parent trees. And so with this design here, it's been very important to snip the flowers because the goal is to allow these moringa trees to grow to their full size as quickly as possible, because basically it's going to assist in keeping the south side of this 100-year-old building cool, which with the proper renovation. So as I was saying, with the proper renovations inside of this 100-year-old building, we're hoping this building can be around for another 100 years. And basically there's a biogas little setup over here that's kind of been abandoned, but we'll see what happens. But basically, due to the various construction priorities, we'll see what ends up happening if this hedge, our row of moringa trees, will continue to go for the full length of the building to provide as much cooling as possible. I really love my foldable Citizen bike. Company is based in Florida. Thought I'd share a little banana pit over here where we got some little moringa trees popping up. And here's another, gutter downspout, and there's a little swale that was built into the ground, and this funnels right here into some sugar cane, bananas, and then 3 moringa trees there, and 1 little moringa tree here. All right, so now I'm walking to the entrance of the farm where the most established moringa trees or moringa hedge is on the whole Ecovillage property. Just a quick thank you to Matt Powers for being an excellent leader in the permaculture movement and for bringing together permaculture practitioners, enthusiasts, experts from all around the world to collaborate together and be in solidarity. All right, so welcome everybody to the St. Pete Ecovillage farm. And right here we have some moringa trees that are doing a great job as some wind protection, and yeah, so could go on and on, but how about I come in here and sit down so we can take a little moringa deep dive together. So I first came to this property back in January 2016, and at the time this was a nonprofit called the Faith House. It was a halfway house, and I believe it was January of 2017 when Faith House was sold and the St. Pete Ecovillage branding began. And then now, as I mentioned earlier, this will be called the Institute for Sustainable Living. So it's been a couple months, but over here is a solar dehydrator, which is used for drying herbs and moringa leaves. Something important to know about drying moringa leaves is actually crushing the leaf before drying it potentiates the isothiocyanates that are in the moringa leaf as a nutrient, and the isothiocyanates help promote enzymes in our liver that activate detoxification in our body. Woohoo! Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I scored some incredible jackfruit earlier. There's a market about 15 minutes from here called the Mustang Flea Market, and vendors from South Florida, like Homestead area, which is the mecca for tropical fruit here in Florida, bring up fruit to this market on Saturday. So I really scored. I mean, I love jackfruit. I haven't had some jackfruit for a little bit. Lychee, Long Gone. I enjoy Long Gone more, but they're both so amazing. But yeah, so right above my head, the tallest canopy is Moringa Trees. And so since we're here at the Institute for Sustainable Living, I guess the first thing I can say is that through my understanding, the moringa tree is by far one of the best permaculture plants, just because of all of the functions, all of the uses. I could go on and on. I mean, basically, I just became so fascinated when I first learned how moringa seeds can purify wastewater. I mean, that just blew my mind. I really wanted to, you know, dive deep, understand the science of that, and wow. And this was my first introduction to moringa was back in December 2011. My original permaculture mentor, Jim Kovaleski, he had a farm tour for his farm in Newport Richey, Florida, which is about maybe 50 minutes north of here. And his farm is called the Freedom House Farm. And for some reason, I felt really inspired that day to include my mother and my brother. And since this was 7 years ago, I guess I was 20 years old. My brother at the time was 10. And yeah, and it was just incredible. I mean, it was my first introduction to permaculture. It was my first introduction to the moringa tree, like maybe a month before this meeting with Jim and his farm tour. I purchased a product called Green Vibrance, which through, you know, consulting with you know, staff at a local health food store called Earth Origins, I found out it was like the best, you know, green powder, you know, that you could buy. And anyways, when I connected with Jim and he started sharing with me, you know, his knowledge about the moringa tree and how he grew his trees from seed and how he built a solar dehydrator out of recycled materials, and, you know, he would make, you know, the powder by hand and, you know, put it in a mason jar. So I was sold, and so it just blew my mind. And that was just the beginning, because, like, you know, Jim was collecting rainwater, Jim was sleeping in a tent underneath his starfruit tree, you know, he took the front door off of his house. I mean, just inspiring, so amazing. And then somehow 2 months after this meeting with Jim, I'm in Fort Myers, Florida at what's called the ECO Global Research Farm. ECO stands for Educational Concerns Humanitarian Organization, and their logo is the moringa leaf enveloping earth. And they're a Christian-based, you know, missionary organization. So it's about a 70-acre permaculture demonstration and R&D site. And basically what they do is train, equip agriculturists and missionaries in Fort Myers to then go over to like Africa and other areas to basically provide relief work. And their whole mission is to fight world hunger. And so, yeah, I ended up getting seeds while I was at ECO for the moringa tree. I ended up learning about some of the best specific varieties. That one is called the PKM1. PKM is an abbreviation for an agriculture technical school in India, where this specific variety was first cultivated and developed. I still have not been able to accurately discern whether this was like legit, you know, like cross-pollinating breeding, because there's like the whole dynamic of, you know, to really, you know, work on some selective breeding. It's like, how do you isolate, you know, other species around to prevent, you know, any of that cross, you know, pollination. But all I know is, without a doubt, like, this is nothing to do with, you know, GMO or, you know, herbicide, pesticides with you know, the selective breeding or anything like that. So anyways, this was back in February 2012, and at my whole permaculture course, like learning more about moringa, just how nutritious it is. I mean, basically the world's most nutritious plant because it contains 92 nutrients, and compared to sea plants that some spirulinas and algae actually contain, you know, some neurotoxins inside of them, the Moringa tree is a drought-resistant tree and is just full of all of this incredible nutrition. And when I say incredible nutrition, I mean the full spectrum of amino acids, over 40 anti-inflammatory properties, tons of antioxidants, tons of vitamins, minerals. I mean, it's amazing. So basically, working for the Moringa Man isn't just about, specializing in the distribution of certified organic Moringa products. It's actually in distributing nutrition science knowledge and data to people, and being on the cutting edge of working towards understanding what is the most optimal diet for human health and longevity. And so yeah, here. But long story short, I relocated to the Garden Island of Kauai, Hawaii in summer 2012. So this was like a few months after Echo, and just this whole immersion into permaculture and plants. And I just started really becoming fascinated with exotic fruits, exotic fruit trees, tropical fruit trees, and that led me to Kauai. And so basically, once I got to Kauai, I put Moringa on the back burner, even though I was very interested in it, being utilized as a fodder for cattle, livestock, chickens, pets in general. But I just started studying very comprehensively a very wide spectrum of exotic and tropical fruits. And so I was really into that, and then I actually got my medical license to grow cannabis out in Kauai, and my focus was on CBD varieties, and I was very passionate about working on formulas and tinctures, and really focused on children suffering because of epilepsy and certain people with neurological disorders, and just how this could really provide a lot of relief for them. So I was really focused on that. And long story short, in 2015 I had a tragic loss. My beloved puppy companion named Bucky died, and I was really sad, and I wanted to change, and so I decided to come back to Florida. And one of my brother from another mother and really good friend just had a roommate move out, basically was able to convince me, it wasn't too hard, but convinced me to live with him and to basically help him grow some food. And what was really cool is in his backyard he had a moringa tree that I actually planted from seed from my first experience at Echo, when I first purchased some seeds from Echo, and really got the download of all the good that Moringa's doing for the world, and then the capacity and potential that Moringa has to do good for humanity and the planet. And so the tree had never been pruned, and so next thing I'm shaping the tree, and I didn't want to waste the leaves, and so I'm making all this powder. And then it was incredible. I mean, I realized that I'm not in Hawaii anymore, so it's not like Hawaii is so special because of the minimal light pollution, minimal sound pollution, just minimal pollution in general, and just higher vibe nutrition, higher vibe food, and the oxygen, and just everything. Like it's called the mana, or the life force, the vibrant energy of nature. And so for me, I would carry around moringa powder, and basically whenever I would eat something, I would just season or sprinkle a little moringa powder on what I was eating, and I would get my friends' attention, people around me, and then one thing led to another. I'm having a chef and the owner of a vegan restaurant really interested, and he wants to start purchasing it from me, and then that starts leading to other people wanting to purchase some, and then I start driving around and I start seeing moringa trees around places and start knocking on doors being like, hey, do you mind if I prune your tree? And so one thing's led to another, and now I've actually helped create a team of scientific advisors, and I've positioned the Moringa Man as a leader and an authority in the moringa industry because of pioneering benchmarks in quality control, quality assurance, lab testing, and then now formulas, and basically cutting edge nutrition science about antioxidants and how they can best respond to free radicals, and just overall synergy blends which come from understanding nutrition science and how our body assimilates nutrition. And it's been incredible because I've helped create a consortium throughout the moringa industry, basically vetting suppliers and confirming consistent quality, and it's just been amazing. And so now the opportunities in just really this whole education and this whole public health reform, education reform, proliferation of preventative-based lifestyle, holistic lifestyle, the significance of diet on our own well-being and how we feel about ourselves and our relationships and our relationship to the world around us. And so basically in any tropical region, subtropical region, moringa trees are extremely easy to grow. And even though as of now in the state of Florida, Moringa oleifera is classified as an invasive species, I've actually been going through the process to unclassify it as an invasive species. Here in Florida, we have what's called the Department of Plant Industries, and then they regulate all agricultural plants. And so they classified moringa as an invasive species, and over in Hawaii, through the Department of Ag, Moringa oleifera has the lowest risk assessment for an invasive species. And so I've just been acting as this liaison because Hawaii has, very sensitive ecosystems, Florida does as well, and it just blows my mind. And so through all this research, what I have found out is the main differentiation for an invasive species is its impact on what's called a undisturbed area, which is another word for a native habitat, and a disturbed area. And so there's no evidence that moringa proliferates itself excessively in undisturbed or native habitats. But when an area has been disturbed, let's say, there was like a, nice little natural, area, and it was graded and it was going to be some building, but then that didn't happen, and then so now it's just kind of like an empty lot and there's a moringa tree nearby. Well, due to the moringa tree, which while I'm talking about this, it's very fascinating, the mathematics. So a moringa seed has the geometry of a tetrahedron and a sphere, which is phenomenal. And then the seed pod has this cylindrical triangular dynamic to it, and so it's kind of like curves, and as the seed pod matures and browns and dries, it naturally cracks open, and then the seeds actually have like little wings on them. And so, for example, in this disturbed area, yes, the moringa trees will proliferate itself, but isn't that a good thing? Like, don't we want that valuable nutrition to just be occurring without our effort and our planning, due diligence? And so it just blows my mind. And so my whole mission has been to really just excite people about moringa, get it introduced in health food stores, juice bars, work with various manufacturers, studying sport drink industry, energy drink industry, just overall nutraceuticals, and just, introducing moringa to really build up, the interest, the demand to then have, you know, it'd be very viable to have a domestic, you know, moringa industry, for lack of better words. But I would like some type of like distributed model, which is already in effect, because here in the Tampa Bay area, we have what's called the Moringa Growers Co-op, which is a distributed farm model of about 1,000 moringa trees. And so people allow moringa trees excuse me, people allow moringa trees to be grown in their yard in exchange for what's called a moringa basket, which is just some value-added moringa products. So just the dried powder, maybe just a dried leaf for tea, capsules, seed oil, bath bombs, and what have you. So this is a really cool model. So you can check out more, just Google the Moringa Growers Co-op, and that's in partnership with a local business here called Newman Nursery, which actually just last Saturday had their grand opening for their first retail store, which I was able to attend, and that was wonderful. And it just shows, you know, this whole moringa movement and the momentum that's happening right now.